Wednesday, 11 a.m., shoulder. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. So a few weeks ago, you did a hip mobility workshop in the gym, and just this past week, you did a shoulder mobility workshop. And I would like for us to discuss it, kind of like give us a rundown of what you did, what were the exercises, what were the issues that people brought to the workshop, and most of all, what were some significant takeaways and maybe some surprises on either side, either your side or the members' side.
All right. Shoulder workshop. As always, I'm basing it off of big muscles with positions. So the only focus on a shoulder mobility, whatever you want to call it, workshop is going to be the lats and teaching the lats in a couple of positions, three different jobs, stabilizing, absorbing, and producing tension. So that's the base of every workshop I do. And surprise, surprise, it helps people on both sides of the arch, which means getting more mobile and getting stronger at the same time. Because for me, that is exactly the same thing. There's no difference between mobility and strength. So we kept it super simple. So we did, as with the hip workshop, we did three exercises based on the lats with the jobs and the positions. So the first exercise we did was the frame carry, which is the best exercise ever to get your lats going in a stabilizing form. That means you're just holding the frame pretty wide and carrying it for like 40 meters. So your lat has to stabilize. There's nowhere for your shoulder to go. You cannot round your shoulders forward. You cannot pinch them back because the weight's kind of heavy. So your lat has to work, which is great. That was the first one. Then we moved into the sandbag press. We could have also done like a front rack carry, but I wanted to make things up. The basic thought behind the sandbag press is teaching your lats to get longer, however you want to call it. That means it has to stabilize first. Once you lift your hands up, your lat gets longer and it needs to literally produce tension. I know the press is not a lat focus exercise, but that's how I see it. And that's what we're putting the focus on. And the third exercise we did was the Chinese row, which is by far the best way to teach your lats to both produce tension, that means pull towards your chest, but also kind of stabilize with the second part of your lats, the teres major at the bottom. It's super I love exercises that reduce 99% of shit that can happen. And in a Chinese row, you're lying horizontally, so your hip can't go anywhere. You cannot shrug with your shoulders once the weight is heavy. Your lower body is blocked. So it's either you have lats or you don't, and that's where you can see and highlight if stuff's working or maybe it's not working. In all three exercises, we're focusing on, okay, what's the job of the shoulder blade? What does the shoulder blade need to do? For the position part, does it have to go like in for pulling? Does it have to go out for pressing? Does it have to stay in between for carrying? And just practicing this and teaching our people, normal people out there, this is the threshold you need to work in. This is not about moving as much weight as possible, and it's not moving no weight so you can look perfect. It's exactly staying in between, knowing what to do, knowing where to head towards, and just making sure the last rep looks better and gets more tension in than the first one. So that's the basic outline of the workshop. Surprises. Well, I surprised my people with the order of things that we did. So I've talked about this before, but let's recap it one more time. The shoulder needs a lot of body weight movement. Let's call it unloaded. Technically, it's not unloaded if you do a push-up, whatever. For me, unloaded means there's no heavy weight somewhere on your body. So we did twisted push-ups, twisted pull-ups as a start because your shoulder literally loves to go from one direction towards the other. One major reason is, and I describe it in the book for a couple of pages, is you can only control rotation in your shoulder. There's no way you need to focus on creating it. Super simple example. If you pinch your shoulder blades together, that means you have a pretty high chance of a lat working. If you're moving weights, that means your big arm bone can still rotate. So no matter what you do in your shoulder, no matter which muscles you engage, no matter which position you're in, rotation will always happen. So that means we need to start controlling rotation, and there's no way to avoid it. The only thing we need to avoid is bones displacing when your shoulder's loaded heavily. Super quick example, when you're doing like a heavy bench press, that means I want to avoid at all costs that your shoulder, so your big arm bone, starts rotating forward. But that's only really necessary once weight gets really heavy with a barbell, etc. So we started the workshop with a couple of twisted push-ups. What's a twisted push-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, for anyone who does not know how to do a twisted push-up.
Yes. So we're doing things weirdly, and weirdly enough, it's working. So a twisted push-up means you're starting, where's the camera? You're starting like this in a push-up position at the bottom. Like literally your hands are facing the other way. And as you're going up, you're turning your hands out. The whole point is, as I said earlier, the shoulder needs that movement, that rotation, that twisting, that spiral movement. Why? Super simple, because that's how your big muscles are attached to your bones. So your lats are attached here, and obviously the other side, the upper lat are attached on the same spot here and on the shoulder blade. So doing rotational movements, twisting motions, actually helps turning the tension up, the tension volume up, going from one side to the other. Now, again, this is not something that needs to happen when you're benching 200 kilos. No. But that's also not the starting point. Starting point is learn how to do body weight movements with your shoulder, whether that's dips, whether that's push-ups, whether that's pull-ups, whether that's crawling. That's what your shoulder needs a lot, and then we can progress from there. So that was a little bit of a surprise for most people from my side. And the fun part is there's a lot of people who can do a lot of push-ups, but have a hard time doing those rotational movements. And most of the time, those are people that have started to have some issues in the shoulder. So it's not about the push-up training a muscle. It's about understanding what the shoulder needs, and all of a sudden, the necessary muscles are starting to work, grow, whatever it is.
Were actually most of the participants' problems with the shoulder, or was there also like elbows, wrists?
All of it, obviously. But it doesn't really matter, because a wrist issue is a shoulder issue. An elbow issue is a shoulder issue. Shoulder issue is a shoulder issue. So as long as you don't take care of the main joint and understanding what it actually needs, there's I'm not saying there's no need to work on your wrist and your elbows, but there's a priority of things, which means, okay, 80% of your work should go towards the shoulder. Maybe go 10% for your elbow and 10% additional work for your wrist. But if you don't know what to do with your shoulder, your elbow and your wrist are going to suffer. So if it's the same with the hips. If you can't control your pelvis, that means your knee and your ankle are going to suffer. This is not a like breaking news or anything. It's called actually most people out there learn it. It's called the joint by joint approach, but I don't see it happening actually in training. Joint by joint means, okay, you gotta work on the hips first, then on the knees, and then on the ankle. But most of the time in the practical world, if you have an ankle issue, people start working on the ankle. If you have a knee issue, they start working on the knee. So we spend a majority of the work on the main joint, whether that's shoulder or the hip, and then we'll see if it's necessary to go down further. Most of the time, it's not.
Okay. And as to the three jobs of the muscle, did you see like a certain prevalence of an issue with one of the three jobs, or
Mhm.
was it like a smorgasbord of issues?
So let's put it like this. We're focusing, or I mean, this were only two workshops, but again, we've done this for a couple of years now. So the first thing we're going to focus on is teaching the muscle to stabilize. That means frame carry for the shoulder, frame carry for the hips, some sort of carry, so your big muscles can learn to stabilize. So that's a staple. That's what we're working off of. The next step for the shoulder is, and for the lat in particular, is learning how to produce tension. That's a shoulder specific, so to speak. Um, um, so Chinese rows, lat pull downs, all that kind of shenanigans. So there's very few exercises where your lats actually needs to put the brakes on or absorb tension. So for the shoulder, we go stabilizing for the lats first, producing second, and absorbing third. And this sounds maybe logical, but just thinking about how most people try to learn a pull up. This is a lot of eccentric work, like lowering yourself down. And it's definitely not working. The shoulders are growing, so you get like big melons on your shoulder because you're literally doing this when lowering yourself down. There's very little need for teaching the lats to absorb tension. So that's always starting with stabilizing and then producing. And if it's really necessary, we'll dive into the absorbing portion too.
Okay. And what was the feedback from the participants after the workshop?
So my goal for the workshop is super simple. We're not doing magic here. This is just systematic, structured work to get your shoulders right. So this is not okay. My shoulder hurts before the workshop, and like 60 minutes later, I can do 25 pull-ups, and my shoulder will never hurt again. My goal of the workshop is to kind of bridge the gap between, okay, this is what we need to do in practice. This is about exercises and reps and weight and all the shenanigans. And this is the theory behind it. So this is where my shoulder blades need to move. And now we have to melt those two things together. Because what I've done a lot in the past is doing corrective exercises, making sure they're looking perfect and they're getting the shoulder blades together, but I often miss the whatever you want to call it, intensity part, moving a lot of weights, because that's like you need to teach your body positions under stress. This is the same as learning to drive a car with no traffic and you're feeling super safe and super comfortable and I got this. But as soon as you hit the road and there's like traffic lights and other cars trying to do road rage on you, this is a different situation. That's the same in training. So we have to find like
Like
the
the sweet.
good mixture. Yes, a good mixture between okay, making sure we're working on position and tension, but also getting intensity. Um, and a fun way to do this, and we actually did this at the end, um, because I want to avoid at all costs that people are thinking, hey, those three exercises are gonna heal my shoulder if I do them perfectly. So we're always finishing up with something where they don't have to think and can put all the intensity in. So I finish with over the yoke rope pulls. That means 2 or 3 sets. So that means you're sitting underneath the yoke, the rope's hanging there, sleds on the other side, and you're literally giving all you got for whatever 20, 25 meters in here. Not thinking about anything. Don't stop. Just start fast, as fast as possible, and then go faster. So we have the best of both worlds. We have that non-thinking monkey intensity world, and we have the very precise small catish world where you can tend to overthink stuff. And this is super important for people.
And my last question is for you, because you're going to redo those workshops, and what would you change? Same. I mean, either for the hip workshop or for the shoulder workshop, what would you do differently, or is there anything you would do differently the next time?
Um, for the shoulder workshop, I would not change anything. The next step we're going to do is because the workshop's great, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. But now the question is, okay, what are my people going to do with that information? And this is probably the most important step because now you feel empowered because you've learned something. That's great. But now we have to give the people the chance to practice it. So we're prepping a personalized plan for people where, okay, this is the one thing I need to focus on, right? So I give them feedback after the workshop. We've done those 3 exercises. Those are the rules, the main points. This is the focus. This is the position focus. This is the tension focus. And you're going to focus on one of them done this way. They get the videos, they get a plan how to do this, so they can start working very precisely and make one thing better. And not like a plan with 17 exercises and do this 3 times a week. No. One thing, perfect it, and then move on. That's what we're doing right now. So I would not change anything with the workshop. I think it's as simple as I can make it, and that's perfectly fine. And I would try to make it smoother for people to implement it in their own training, either before classes, after classes, doing stuff on their own, so they can start working on it.
Oh.
Let me just finish with one thing, which I think is very important to mention, because I talk about the lats a lot. And I think we're missing a great point. And this is actually something I saw a lot on the Chinese rows. So when we're talking about lats, we're talking about the lat dorsi. So that's the big one, the V-shaped muscle, the Johnny Bravo muscle, however you want to call it, that inserts right here, inserts on the shoulder blades, like the holy grail of your back, inserts on the pelvis as well. But there's a second part to it, which gets overlooked, and I think gets categorized for whatever reason not in the right direction. So that's the teres major. So I think the lat dorsi, the teres major, are actually the ones who control your shoulder. The teres major gets put into the rotator cuff, which I think is complete nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, it's geographically around the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus and all the muscle, the subscapularis, whatever is on there. But the teres major there's a huge difference. It inserts on the inside of your shoulder blade. I'm sorry, the outside of your shoulder blade, and on the inside of your big arm bone. So that means it has the potential to get more tension once you start twisting stuff, right? The other rotator cuff muscles do not, because they're either attached on the inside and on the inside on the arm, or they're on the outside of the arm. Most of them are not even attached on the big arm bone, whatever. So I think we're making a big mistake here, and we should look at the teres major as the one being in charge of your shoulder blades moving out. That's the lat moving the shoulder blades out, and the lat dorsi moving the shoulder blades in, right? And I think that's the main reason why eccentric pull-ups are now working. Because absorbing tension is actually the job of the teres major. Because if you do this, right? So if you're in a Chinese row position, you're letting your shoulder kind of loose. That's when you're absorbing tension, and this is literally what a teres major hits, right? And when you're pulling, so when you're producing tension, that's what a lat dorsi has its most potential. Let's phrase it very theoretically, right? So I think those two are the ones responsible for that, and that's why eccentric pull-ups are literally not working. So I think the lat dorsi has very little function for absorbing tension. This is all on the teres major while moving the shoulder blades out. Why it's so important? Because we can be more precise about stuff. That's why, and that's why the Chinese rows are so great, because you can. I tell people, relax your shoulder at the bottom, so like this, but it's not really relaxing. Your teres major is like fully on, because it lengthens, right? So it's fully on. It controls the shoulder when the shoulder blades are out. And then it's the counter movement of your lat dorsal pulling. So they're literally playing whatever you want to call it. Tug of war is maybe a good way to look at it. So I'm advocating for calling the teres major the lat minor. I won't be successful with it. We teach it like this. I think it's miscategorized in the rotator cuff, and it actually should be a part of the lat minor and lat major. But I don't think I will be successful with that. Whatever. I'm successful in practice. I'm successful with people in training, fixing the shoulder. So that's all I care about. And one more question, or are we done?
No.
Cool. So hit me up with questions. We'll try to put as much content out there as possible about shoulders, shoulder positions, which tension to work on, and especially why stuff's working or why stuff is not working. So this is not fate. This is not a lack of intelligence. This is not a lack of, what did Anya say today?
That she was having trouble moving the bar in the Yates row intellectually.
Yes. She thought, okay, so one of our coaches was with us today, and she couldn't do the Yates row and explained some stuff to her, and she said, I think I have an intellectual problem. It's like, no, you don't have an intellectual problem. You just don't know what to do. And that's fine. That's not, and then you just learn stuff, and then you pull into your hips, and then you get your shoulder blades together, and then you realize what's missing, and that's fine. And I know you can't pull the bar all the way towards your hips yet because you're missing the last part of your lat dorsi. That is totally fine for now. The goal for today is get like 0.5 centimeter closer to your hips by pinching your shoulder blades together, using a decent weight, gripping supinated, and pulling towards your hips. You are not failing if you can't touch your hips. No, you're failing if you're not trying. That's the only thing that you have to care about, and getting a millimeter closer every single time. This is how this works. I know it's not how it's been told on Instagram. That's totally fine for me. I only care about helping her shoulder and helping everyone's shoulder up there. So, famous last words. Bring on the questions, send us videos. I love watching that stuff. Nothing's too stupid, no questions too stupid. Try to answer everything. This is fun. Let's keep it up. See you guys next week.